Welcome back to Bump Love. Friends enrich every stage of our lives, but friendships during motherhood in particular are a life jacket that keeps your head above water. When you become a parent, making friends takes on a whole new meaning. Today, we want to discuss mom friendships, and joining us to talk about this is Crystal Newman. Crystal is a Ugandan media personality, TV radio presenter, YouTuber, MC, and moderator. She's a producer and content creator. She shares authentic stories with guests from all walks of life on her platform, Crystal One-on-One. And I have been a guest on that show in particular. She's an advocate for the rights of women and children. She's a goodwill ambassador with Uganda Red Cross Society and ambassador for the Internet Watch Foundation fighting against child sexual abuse online. Wow, Crystal. Wow. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that I can finally revenge for the many contacts I get of people going like, oh my God, I watched you on Crystal One-on-One, Crystal One. Now I want them to call you and say, we watched you on Bump Love, Bump Love, Bump Love. But on this topic of mom friendships, ladies, how have your relationships evolved since you became a mom?
So this is a different phase of your life. You now have children. So I think for me, there was definitely a lot of restructuring, let me use that word, but not too much. I was actually thinking back and reflecting on it yesterday that I actually still have single friends. It's just that I don't spend time with them. I spend more time with my mom friends because they sort of get my dynamic, and that I have to sort of take care of a child and be about that child's business most of the time. If I have something to do, if I have some downtime and I want to spend time with another adult, a play date seems a bit more feasible. If I wanted to spend time with a single friend, then I would have to look for a sitter or find somewhere to place my car so that I can have undivided attention with this person. So definitely there was a restructuring. I still have friends who don't have kids, but they are not as many as the ones who have, because I guess the ones who have sort of get dynamic, and usually friendships are nurtured when you have stuff in common. So talking about kids, which is also partly where I started, because every time we got together, we are talking about our children, we're talking about motherhood and parenting, and so.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Speaking of friendships, I was one of the first ladies in my group to have children. So, and that was for quite a few years. So I was very intentional about keeping my friendships. I see it's very different now. People travel with their nannies or a helper. I used to lug my kids, put them in the car seat when I had my first one, and I'm like, I'm going to see my friend, because I was also about my friends to know my children, my close friends, that is, of course. And even when I had 3 children, I'd put them all in the car and go with them to visit friends, go to parties. It was a lot more stressful. I'd come back looking extremely frazzled, but I guess to me it was like, hey, my kids are part of me. But also the thing about friendships is when your children are little, when you've just had your children, you don't really have time for your friends. So that was one of the things I realized between work, because I was working as well. I was either working, I was with my children as well. So I didn't have as much time for my friendship. So I had to be very intentional. I have accepted and acknowledged that I cannot be a stay-at-home mom. I probably would lose my mind, because weeks in after having a child, I remember I'd be like a crazy person. I'd get in my car and just go and sit at a cafe just to have peace and quiet. And I'm like, oh, this is what the rest of the world is like. It's not just the diapers. It's not just the breastfeeding. But I find that, if I've never actually been someone who's into crowds, who's in big groups, and I've tried to be that way. I look for my friends. I make time for my friends. For the ones that make time for me, though, because also when you have children, the dynamic in friendship changes, where you really start to pay attention to the people who are making an effort as well. I think it should be a two-way street. So yeah, it changes a bit, but I had to work extra hard. And for all my girlfriends, they knew my kids. I'll be like, hi, and here's my baby, and here's my other baby. So that's how it worked for me.
Crystal, just like you, I was I had that struggle being one of the first ladies in my groups. I have groups of friends that I kind of try to keep separate because they're a bit different and I met them differently. So I don't really fuse them. And I remember, like, I had my son when my friends and I were supposed to be chopping our first salaries, like that first salary. It's supposed to be your money. Like, who spends their first year salary on diapers and breast milk and shopping and what? My birthdays were out all the time, sending pictures. You're saying guys are enjoying, they're doing what, living their best lives. Like, that was the 20s, the great year, those years of who cares, no consequences. Now you're here, you're stuck with a baby, you're pregnant, 9 months. So even like it was so difficult, but you guys, I tried to keep up and just found myself, you guys, I went from my son. I used to, like Crystal again, I used to move with my son everywhere. My kid was my handbag. I was not those moms. I didn't have a living nanny, and she didn't work weekends. And now prog is happening Friday to Sunday. So I went with my kid everywhere. My child first went out when he was 7 days old. A friend of mine, Miranda, she was leaving the country, and I felt the need. I still wanted to be in their lives, And I realized, you guys, I can't keep up with this. I just stopped. Like, I withdrew, and I didn't care whether they understood or did not. So for like 5 years, I was just with my kid, and the only time, and now, as Crystal says, the friends who would keep coming to make the effort, it would be an issue of a child-friendly place. So you would go, but my friends were single for a very long time. So I didn't even have that luxury of saying, oh, I've gravitated more towards my mom friends. I would not have friends. Like, I had one or two, and everybody else was living their best lives for a very long time. And now, when my kid's older, now I'm even now the star, because they are the ones who are tired. They are tired all that time. Now I'm the one giving them advice. They are now trying to get time to hang out with me because all of them can't decide on a date. Their next date to meet is like 20, 100, 20, 30. For me, I'm there waiting. Who wants to go out? So now I'm the star of the friendship. So yeah, things changed when my son grew. Now we are great, as we now are quite intentional, but they are the ones who don't have the time. And yeah, now I'm resting. I'm okay. We're
So I really wish I had something to write home about. I've always, like, seeing this topic on like the schedule, I was sad because I'm a horrible friend. Like, I'm a horrible friend to have because, like, just in general, and I'm learning now, I'm a very self-absorbed brat. Like, let me say it like that. Like,
It's honest.
No, I'm learning to be honest with myself, because that's the only way I can change. You know what I'm saying? For a very long time, I didn't know that. I don't know. I just didn't know how to navigate relationships or friendships. Like, if you're there now in my space now we will be friends. Then when you leave that door, like when you're out of my sight, out of my mind, out, completely out. And I appreciated friendships like the ones with Rosette. I mean, Rosette and I have been friends for like over 20 years or something. I guess one of the reasons as to why we've been friends for so long is because she just knew how to work with me. Like, we'll catch up from where we've stopped. So and so for me, I appreciated her friendship, because when people would call me, they're like, why don't you call? I'm like, I have a baby, don't you know? Like, I just never, ever saw. And I'm ashamed of it, but I had to reach a place where I was honest with myself. So when you ask me how our friendships evolved, I'm like, what are we talking about exactly? What are we talking about? And I have friends, my friends are very loyal, they're very devoted. And so I know for a fact that they would visit me even when I had a child. When they would have children, I'd be like, I'm with mine. I would not remember that they came to see mine. Anyway, just know that when I started as a mom, it was horrible. I've only just changed maybe since 2018, 2019, 2020. During lockdown, that's when I'm working so hard. That's when I'm learning friendship. But before, I was a horrible, yeah. So this topic, anyway, moving on.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, like what you said, that there will be those friends where you don't see each other for years. And I had a lot of those friends. As much as I was being a mom, they were busy in their careers and they didn't take any offense. But the point is to make an effort to at least keep in touch and know how the other person is doing. But Manuela, yeah, sometimes you're so buried in there. I totally get that.
Manuela, I'm glad you acknowledge and agree and that you're learning. But well, I think in my group, I was also among the first to have children. And wow, navigating. I'm intentional about my friendships and I keep the relationship. For me, I will check on you regardless of what's happening. The babies really took up my time. Guys, what formula I was talking about. You look at the first time you get out of the house after having a baby, you're like, is this life? Like, what am I doing? All you know is diapers. Manya, where is the breast milk? Is it coming? How many cups of man? But with my friendships, I like that I had some that were really intentional checking on me. And like Crystal said, it's a two-way street. Like if you see someone ditching you, you're like, man, I'm not fighting this. Of course, there are branches that fell off. Of course, the friends that don't have moms, there's no conversation you're having after you've had a child that is not about children. It's all you know at the moment. It's all you can talk about. It's after a while when they've grown that you can now start, talking about politics and other things that are happening in the world. Other than that, I like that after I had my first child, of course, my friends fell in line. They didn't sleep on their job. They also started having friends. So we had something to talk about making my friendships intentional. I think I'm one person good at that. I still have some friends that don't have children yet, but we still relate. Like there's other things that we can talk about and the relationship is good. For me, I love friendships. I feel like girl friendships are a good place to go, to relieve stress, talk about lots of things. So I'm intentional about keeping my relationships and keeping the communication, because every time you don't communicate, the friendship dies. So I'm intentional about keeping my relationships. Yeah, that's how I've navigated. I've had no issues navigating, even if I had children.